In our internet-fueled spiritual journey of the 21st century, we often find ourselves feeling exactly like this meme. Nirvana, alchemy, left-hand path or right-hand path, Atman or Anatta. Have you reached the absolute yet? The perennial tradition, higher level of consciousness, mystical initiation, Kali Yuga, magic, and so on and so on and so on. The more we read, research, and study about spirituality, the deeper we go into the rabbit hole, the more frustrated we actually become. Our heads become filled with concepts and words until the internal dialogue is nothing but an endless psychobabble of spiritual junk. How did we get here? Why do we feel like this? Let's look into it, shall we? The information age has revolutionized just about every aspect of our lives. If we look back 100 or 200 years ago, there is practically no human activity that has remained unchanged. Humanity today has access to what amounts to basically all the accumulated knowledge of previous generations. This has various and deep consequences, which we are only now beginning to understand. But one very distinct phenomenon is that of the internet rabbit hole, of becoming overloaded with new information, to the point where we cannot make new connections or integrate any of the knowledge that has been acquired. This is not a new or novel observation that I'm making, but I hope to show in this video how this phenomenon can occur in the spiritual context and how to overcome it and use the internet as a tool and not as a distraction. It is a classic story. We begin as spiritual seekers. Somehow we are dissatisfied with our current state of being. We are suffering and don't know why, or perhaps we are simply seeking something whose existence we are only vaguely and intuitively aware of, which we may have bumped into a few times over the course of our lives. How can we learn something new about this spiritual reality? Well, by reading about it, of course. Unless you are very unique or lucky or special in some way, you probably started your journey through reading some book or article which was recommended to you, either in real life or online. And for most of the viewers of this channel, this probably involved 4chan's Paranormal Board in some way or another. This is how it occurred for me. I was on X and I found an infographic of the Beginner's Guide to Spirituality reading list. On the top of the list was the book Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson, which is a great book that I have covered a few times in this channel. And that's how I started. Regardless of how we start, we were all at this point introduced to an amazing new world of spirituality, magic, occultism, meditation, martial arts, Eastern philosophy, and religion. We start reading about all these things, maybe trying out some practices here and there, and eventually we take a liking to the theoretical aspect of spirituality. We download a bunch of books and read them one after another, or we watch a bunch of videos and start engaging in many 4chan threads about the subject. We might even become militant keyboard warriors, always arguing with others about why my specific tradition is correct, why its dogmas and philosophy is better than the other dogmas and philosophies, why its morality is supreme, why my God is the only correct one, etc., etc. This is where the error begins. After some time, maybe short or long, we will find ourselves feeling just like this meme. Our heads are overloaded with concepts and ideas which seem convincing and interesting by themselves, but which we have not at all integrated or put into practice. Most importantly, we do not have the experiential knowledge of any of these things, and we will most likely forget all about them if we just stopped reading and discussing them. This is the great tragedy of the intellect, of the rational superego, which only wants to absorb and debate and never actually learns anything of value. There is a great story which illustrates this tragedy of the intellect. In the Platonic dialogue Phaedrus, Socrates talks about an ancient legend of the origin of writing and its misgivings. Socrates begins by saying, "I have heard of a tradition of the ancients. Whether true or not, only they know. Although if we had found the truth ourselves, do you think that we should care much about the opinions of men?" Phaedrus replies, "Your question needs no answer, but I wish that you would tell me what you say that you have heard." And so Socrates explains. At the Egyptian city of Naucratis, there was a famous old god whose name was Thoth, or Thoth. The bird which is called the ibis is sacred to him, and he was the inventor of many arts, such as arithmetic and calculation, geometry and astronomy, and draughts and dice. But his great discovery was the use of letters. Now in those days, the god Thamus was the king of the whole country of Egypt, and he dwelt in that great city of Upper Egypt, which the Hellenes called Egyptian Thebes. And the god himself is called by them Ammon. To him came Thoth and showed his inventions, desiring that the other Egyptians might be allowed to have the benefit of them. He enumerated them, and Thamus inquired about their several uses, and praised some of them and censured others, as he approved or disapproved of them. It would take a long time to repeat all that Thamus said to Thoth in praise or blame of the various arts. But when they came to letters, to writing, "This," said Thoth, "will make the Egyptians wiser and give them better memories. It is a specific, both for the memory and for the wit." Thamus replied, "O most ingenious Thoth, the parent or inventor of an art is not always the best judge of the utility or inutility of his own inventions to the users of them. And in this instance, you, who are the father of letters, from a paternal love of your own children, have been led to attribute to them a quality which they cannot have. For this discovery of yours will create forgetfulness in the learner's souls, because they will not use their memories. They will trust to the external written characters and not remember of themselves. The specific which you have discovered is an aid not to memory, but to reminiscence. And you give your disciples not truth, but only the semblance of truth. They will be hearers of many things, and will have learned nothing. They will appear to be omniscient, and will generally know nothing. They will be tiresome company, having the show of wisdom without the reality." Phaedrus says, "Yes, Socrates, you can easily invent tales of Egypt or of any other country." Socrates says, "There was a tradition in the temple of Dodona that oaks first gave prophetic utterances. The men of old, unlike in their simplicity to young philosophy, deemed that if they heard the truth, even from oak or rock, it was enough for them. Whereas you seem to consider not whether a thing is or is not true, but who the speaker is and from what country the tale comes." Phaedrus says, "I acknowledge the justice of your rebuke, and I think that the Theban is right in his view about letters." Socrates says, "He would be a very simple person and quite a stranger to the oracles of Thamus or Ammon, who should leave in writing or receive in writing any art under the idea that the written word would be intelligible or certain, or who deemed that writing was at all better than knowledge and recollection of the same matters. I cannot help feeling, Phaedrus, that writing is unfortunately like painting. For the creations of the painter have the attitude of life, and yet if you ask them a question, they preserve a solemn silence. And the same may be said of speeches. You would imagine that they had intelligence, But if you want to know anything and put a question to them, the speaker always gives one unvarying answer. And once they have been written down, they are tumbled about anywhere among those who may or may not understand them, and know not to whom they should reply, to whom not. And if they are maltreated or abused, they have no parent to protect them, and they cannot protect or defend themselves. Socrates here provides a deep criticism of the superficiality of written knowledge, which applies perfectly to the situation being discussed here. So, what are we to do? How does one get out of this hole? Is there no spiritual truth at all? Are all philosophies and religions merely empty words, a reification of the non-existent? No. There is something more to all of this. But we have lost contact with it, since we're only interested in talking about it instead of actually experiencing and living it. This is the most important message that I'd like to talk about. That is, that truth is within. Every spirituality has emerged from someone who experienced something great and wanted to share it with other people. But the experience has to come first. We are all vaguely aware of the fact that the rational or intellectual part of the human mind is only a small and superficial portion of all the mental processes and events which are actually going on. Most of these mental processes and events occur on the empirical or even irrational level, as experience and psychology have proven. Things such as bodily movements like breathing or becoming tense or relaxing, or automatic reflexes, or sexual attraction and desire, or fear and most other emotions, all happen on this level. The only way to reprogram these reactions and habits of ours is by actually training new habits and reactions over and over and over again. For those of you who have done martial arts, you will know how incredible one's evolution in learning a specific move or technique will be after weeks or months of diligent practice. And the same happens through prayer, meditation, magic, or other practices. The only way to truly develop oneself is to delve deeply within and practice. Rationality and reason don't even scratch the surface of what's truly happening. Just like many of us have bad habits that we can't shake off, even though we are tired of saying to ourselves and thinking, reasoning about them, saying that they are bad habits, that we should be ashamed, that this is not a good thing to be doing, etc. And yet we still do it. The problem is not that we don't know that these things are bad. They truly are bad habits, and we are aware of it. The problem is that only a small, superficial part of the mind is aware of it, and the rest of the mind doesn't even know that it's a problem. Only when we truly delve into ourselves and see how much suffering the bad habit causes us, then the deeper parts of our mind will begin to understand that and to let go of the habit. The same happens for spirituality. Much of spiritual practice is just learning to let go of bad habits, and this requires lots and lots of repetition. Our whole body and being have to experience the realization in order for it to be embedded in us. And then we will be able to think about it and explain it to others in the clearest possible manner. This is why our theoretical understanding has to be accompanied by practice. It's like the two wings of a bird. A bird that only flaps one wing is no bird at all and will never get anywhere. It's only when both wings are synchronized and flapping together that true flight occurs. You have to practice. You have to meditate. You have to live out your spirituality. You cannot just think about it. Otherwise, you'll just be juggling empty concepts. They have no substance. Another important point is that all true realizations come from within. They come from surrendering ourselves to the present moment and simply allowing the truth to arise. In a true realization, we are learning something new about reality, something surprising which we did not see or understand before, as opposed to trying to make your reality fit to the preconceived notions that you have about what it should be like. If you knew what reality was truly like, then you would already be fully enlightened. You would have no doubts about anything, and you would not suffer. The fact that you are a seeker shows that nothing you have done thus far was the real deal. And you might even have come into contact with true traditions, but you only understood them at an intellectual level and never deeper. Remember that the entire body has to understand. Not just the intellect and not just the mind, but the entirety of your being. It is not enough to have faith. Sometimes we have faith in our teachers or in our religion's founder or current leader. Faith is useful in order to get us moving, but it isn't a replacement for true wisdom. You only truly know something if you have experienced it. Your teacher's truth isn't your truth, and the truth that is in your religion's scriptures is not the truth for you. It's all just ideas in your head, until it isn't. There is only one way, and that is your way. There is only one salvation, and that is your salvation. Why are you looking for help? Do you believe help will come from outside? What is to come will be created in you and from you. Hence, look into yourself. Do not compare. Do not measure. No other way is like yours. All other ways deceive and tempt you. You must fulfill the way that is in you. Carl Jung, The Red Book. I believe that there is a great potential in the internet as a medium for propagating spiritual teachings. It has a far greater reach than any other communication method in history, and it can theoretically benefit innumerable human beings if they come into contact with the right content and information. However, I think that this great capacity must be tempered with responsible use of the intellect, of rationality, and of writing. If we allow these faculties to become numb with overuse, then we will actually be doing ourselves more harm than good. Delete your social media. Stop going on 4chan. If you have to go on 4chan, then go like once a week. Any more than that is overusing your intellect, overusing your rationality. You're not giving it the value that it has. You're allowing it to become numb. You have to be comfortable with the silence. Only then will words have any meaning. If all you experience is words, then they all become just meaningless, just babbling on and on. So, as I said, delete your social media. Stop going on 4chan, stop going on YouTube, and start meditating more. That is my advice. Hopefully this video will help some of you who are struggling with this issue, as I have in the past, and will help you to overcome it and move on your path. Thank you all for watching. May you all be well, and I hope to see you soon once again.